Life sorry. All right, let me get started. No one's here. I think God knows watching you. If I, all right, here we go. Totally missed it. God, so okay, so easy. Yeah. I was watching hot boxing with Mike Tyson. It has a guy who's saying what I was saying in some of my videos in media for years. That stupid, what is that phrase? Hunters gatherers. The whole thing. The whole thing is scientists are overtly slash insidiously. Their conjunction is obfuscated in your faces. Every subject being left out significant details. Yeah, yeah. Republic is an archaeological. They were talking about. So I'm trying to say, Republic is a Jane Austen's phrase. Reportedly, Jane Austen's phrase. Sense and sensibilities. That's archaeological evidence. Robert Frost lived from 1874 to 1963. I just remember that so easily because I wrote about it. But I keep forgetting the dates that Blake lived, and the dates that Robert Blake lived are also given for the age, for the roughly for the years that the Romantic time period was, which is another archaeological evidence. Before this came the neoclassical time period with English language, and it is more probable that there had already been the beginnings of, you know, a tactical method against the names of the species identity of bodies individually grouped and together, every single one, including modern countries, just as it was with colonial times, individually grouped and together, an identity of negative value nature progression that left out and leaves out simultaneously too as evidence how the database relationships were criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw, tactically other than could have been. Excuse me, I have this thing in my stomach. That which really revealed the republic for which we stand, of which yin yang is our archaeological evidence. Alpha and omega are archaeological evidences that go with this. It is more probable and is demonstrable, the more practical and more probable to teach that, to theorize or to convict that yin yang and that alpha and omega had been taught together before the sciences became tactically, criminally foreign influenced. For example, through defenses of selves, therefore names, therefore identity, ground, locations, all that mixed. With all this hyper additional, one identity of hyper additional nature is bigger than math, and it is only increasing. It is discernible that it can be five, it can be positive to five identities of a sequence slash simultaneous nature simultaneously. Otherwise, that there is criminal insidiousness manifest. Otherwise, the reason it's not, all it needs is the care to try to be getting it out, and the answer will come. Means will appear from nowhere, per science. Therefore, it is purport is actually recorded, I should say also. Therefore, it is more probable too that and how, for example, it is also evidence that and how they left out what is more probable, for example, where and how, at least to a great extent, both the religion, all the modern religious leaders were talking about without being able to talk about it directly because they were changing what they're saying. Now they're talking about the physics. The sciences role had already become abridged. The same reason we're supposed to keep the Constitution unabridged. But we were not supposed to blame the breaching method that had the colonies individually grouped in together on England. Slavery had been entrenched north and south through the identities of other countries that used us remotely, and that had been sustained. It had first been sustained against Native Americans, and that's critical to understand it, because then it had further been sustained syntactically against Native Americans the same way against our founding parents in our faces, overtly slash insidiously. Other is told than they had us to communicate. One thing we could do to fix the world real fast is take away homework, put down what needs to be right, and what needs to be learned. All right, in other words, the way they have the summary convictions, the summary theories, you know, relevant to where the science is not supposed to have theory in the public sphere. We were not supposed to use how that was just the way it was. Dylan, just the way things are. A lot of things people say that, and other things because a preaching method put things out, because it had things functional to by it. Had sickly, distinctly every single person a certain nature of slaves since ancient times. Since America's founding, since before our founders were even born, the design of the suburbs was designed without anyone realizing, but through everyone, to cause negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. This is what I had first done to the Native Americans. I had forced them by tactically denaturing nature's actual system of causing positive and negative value nature progressions. First of all, you make people speak about that, think about it and remember that. More and more, they're not paying attention to their education. And so more and more it becomes critical to understand where and how education was applied originally as a theater called criminal insidiousness. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a police form, not a criminal. Boxing, it teaches things. The science of sharing identity, individually grouped and together. The approaches to each identity, the ground location where and how any of them, even people's homes, are weird how they have conjunction to the identities of industries, identities of value, systems. These are all tactically apart from where and how the identity of everything at once is actually in demonstration to us. It is actually a demonstration to us how and why it is the identity of everything at once and not everything at once. It is some things variably, and it is some things constantly. Where it is things variably, however, it is coupled with a special difference. For this math, my doctor, the juxtaposed natures of organized crime and of tactical physical delusions associated with doctors of mental health, for example, and of uses of locations, attaching people to fake words with themselves through time in big databases, kids. This is relevant in a whole bunch of ways tied to how they got motivated. Needs and natures to get in the way or the slightest bit of someone countering others peacefully, verbally, let alone regarding child abuse. See, they have roles with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and other natures of insidious like that, inherent, active, progressive to opinions and convictions A through Z, or they attach you to fake words regarding politics, regarding uses of words and values. See, you were certain type of child abuse, who, where, and how nature was demonstrating that our founders communicated to us to have understood how and why people could be motivated to roles with criminally foreign influence, criminal insidiousness, natures of positive treatments, negative treatments, and identity treatments simultaneously. Therefore, increasing value treatments too. It's relevant to where and to how and to why, but since before computers were invented, there was a breaching method was consciousness of how identities could be assigned additional values and relevant to positive and negative treatments with databases associated with logic gates. The summary value of the crazy sick laws, worse than witch trials against everyone sickly distinctly. We know with slavery, we know with this method against the black people's white survived. We know, therefore, simultaneously a quality of fact treatment nature simultaneously too, which that couldn't defend itself and afford us to be defended at the same time needed to pretend others simultaneously too. That's one of the logic gates. It's like that one of the ways we could sense and measure the logic gates that were standing apparent. Nature itself is telling it's like nature itself. I mean, I'm not going to say it like that. But in other words, we should with the arts. We can't leave them the way they have told American history, but we can't jump away and hide it. We cannot blame it on other things or others ourselves. These are archaeological evidences. Where and how they make opinions and have groups where the subject matter is whether there should be inclusion or this or that, or or all those all those subject treatments were recorded criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. This method discernibly knew that modern countries would blame other things, others, ourselves, even when correctly wrong exactly the way it needed to. And they would have to defend themselves as a fact treatment nature. Where and how, for example, nature will continue to demonstrate the breaching method itself as a scientific value relevant to questions and relevant to why we have those questions actually. There are exceptions. People have other pursuits of thought. Again, we know everyone just gives up on the significance of it. More people will believe understand that we are a tactically abridged system. For example, because the suburbs were set up since before our founders were born. Our founders communicated with us to explain how they were forced, even though they were capable of counter extorting the people involved with slavery, North and South. And even though they forced the North to fight with the South about slavery or subject treatment, uh, they knew that slavery was still both North and South entrenched. They would adapt. I tell no lies. You cannot tell lies here. See, but we have the judgment of who's telling lies. They're leaving out the roles with criminal foreign influences because no, everyone knew everyone would not want to be it. So, but everyone was already it differentially because everyone's already assigned, not just respect to formal logic as standing. So they want and need to change this to elders, for example, because then we're not doing things like that. And then you start debating about that, and more. No one's dealing with the qualities of fact, human nature, the premises, the exception nature, and how because nature uses it more than one way that we can't invent. Earth's a special difference. We go by the system; it goes by that is it, or we are forced from here as value, as nature as value, where we are automatically temporary positive. One identity shows us how one identity could stay positive onto all different parts of different identities of your body. They have a proverbial semi-nature relationship to your complete identity. It is more probable and practical and demonstrable that English had been revealed to teach using where and how the sciences share an identity and demonstration of this. There is a better than living identity of relationship that the sounds of the languages have, individually grouped and together and coupled. For example, there are proofs that English and Arabic go together. not just because Arabic is right to left and English is left to right. There are just like there is a better than living relationship between where and how. Each of the species has a cell manifest, a cell body, cell nucleus, cell wall, a body of value, a body of value shared, a body of volume shared is inseparable from all other identities of volume. And where every identity of volume is distinct from it, why has it though? This is where and how everything is really everything per its system law. Oh, but if it's a system, how come we are its system? We're a bridge system. We're a criminally foreign influence system that used logic gates before they were dealing with electronics. Uses of phrase logic gates. Use database relationships before computers. This republic is proof of it. This lack of sophistication blamed on the causes of it, blamed on other things other than ourselves and the people possessed by it. Not willingly, not wantingly. There are more natures. There are more criminal, insidious natures of bad things. Focused consciously upon each city than there are streets in the city. There are individuals that brought up more names and things and distinct natures of organized crime, even involved with child offenders, involved with people involved with body dumping spots, whether they did it or not. Too, the people claim to be murdered, recorded time, remote uses of them, roles with the broadcast news, licensed journalists. I'm not a licensed journalist. Licensed journalists attach me to fake words. They painted themselves in corners since I was a kid. I could, and you could see this, which is actually recorded, because most of the police and some of the police want to do the right thing, but so they're communicating as volume that keeps getting wiped away because they have the FBI, former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, associated with Washington D.C. and interstate, with places next to around his lawyer's office, and federal criminal co-defendants of his Thaddeus Grabowski, John LeConte, and Dominic Lepriata. Thaddeus Grabowski is involved with police from my town who are involved in Hartford. I'm from Weathersfield. They're involved with on and off Fox Connected News in Hartford. Also with people near Trinity College that are involved with child campuses near there, and on spots right next to Trinity College. On and off all the campuses through time. They've been planting evidences and slanders and motivation and pretended motivations. Also, as uses of the three spots at the end of the Bowling Turnpike, before the heart of Hartford. A turnpike, a pike is a weapon of war. Excuse me. I believe I played in a video game before. A war game. They have one of the guys has a weapon with called the pike. There are proofs that there might be something symbolic with this, because Trinity College was first George Washington College, because the fire department next to it has roles with a whole bunch of a whole bunch of people. You know, this is where to explain where and how people had roles with those crazy laws. You have to discern how they could discern it. The breaching method. and how they would have to explain it by syntactically listing uses of other people's names and not just their own to show the simultaneous. Because the identity of what is simultaneous is one of the things that is invisible but still discernible, like the subject, like each verb, and like its identity of relationship to itself. Is it being a verb as a participle nature? Is it being a verb as a predicate? Is it being a verb as a I forgot the other one? So, so in other words, you could use a verb not just as a. In other words, the verb is as an identity of volume. Also, they have volume science. In other words, they have volume theory, as they have the word theory, used offensively to measure and to maintain. That formerly theorized and convicted regarding what we know and what we do not know, to measure and maintain. Other pretended known than is known. And where there are things that we do know, they're pretending they're not real. Relevant to where and to how there are recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, criminally foreign influence readings of statutes. For example, that give the right to lie and the right to get away with things because it's too expensive to deal with them. See, but they lost that right when they contributed roles with rape threats, with New Britain Superior Court, with home break-in threats, with a Joshua Julian on the principal child abusers campus, when they fabricated emails with the people associated with the FBI, with the Weathersfield Police and state police, and the same houses associated with forensics locations through time. Also with Newtown. Newtown Sandy Hook has a campus there. Has campuses there also has a prison campus there that had and has crimes with their patients and criminals since before they were there. Also with names for switching and other natures of federal crimes juxtaposed because there are timed uses of it. These are also roles with recorded conscious roles with uses of time and other qualities of fact human nature, aspects of fact human nature to pull off little scams with the courts, with the ones that are involved with crimes with their patients and criminals since before they get caught and against innocent people, and torturing those people who got caught maybe for things they did, but they're torturing them and using them just the way, communicating with them just the way they need to keep them from their mouth shut about certain things. There is conscious maintenance to that quality to the people that'll do and say anything that to keep that quality of fact human nature that's going to leave out the value of where and how people actually know each other. There are only three branches of government. This preaching method was sophistication here since before our founding parents were born. It is not by accident that has not been noted, and where and how, where that there are obligations for that to be noted. Other ones is pretended in its place. The same ones pretending passions and emotions because they think they're pretending their kids can't handle it tied to that. Those are the ones with kids that are recorded offensively juxtaposed simultaneously, uh, pretending to be American with passions and emotions simultaneously, um, criminally foreign influence. That's criminally foreign influence logic, but used by politicians that is applied. There are uses of it where things are and how things are actually manifest at each age and at each nature of campus. Fire campuses, medical campuses, including the difference between how the private or public and if they're in the mixture. All that is used by police forms and by influences and phenomena that everyone missed from off all locations, then further on off them. But then that was sustained. So there are things that are sick that appear to be, even about what they are not, even when that's correct. It is recorded that there is recorded evidence, proof that wealth has not afforded from here across the globe anything other than tactically denatured suburbs since before our founding parents were born, before all the machines and planes and ships with, and what has it been used for? You know, but what are these truths being used for? Not to go for follow mandated law. The algorithm should sense and understand what I said. They've been the Weathersfield police are involved with their phones as victims, most of them, in some way, as victim predators, hyper predators, fabricating audio, video transcripts with other police forms, because but it's differential criminal foreign influences involved here. They have the branches of government recorded already individually grouped it together with crime methods that no one fathomed. Where how since they were kids, there are a whole bunch of names with CCSU from Weathersfield I had nothing to do with. That was since I was a kid, they were involved with predicate acts, with databases, and with communications they had with and around teachers I had from when I was the youngest age, and people associated with them. As those people all associated with the name, the names involved with the wire crimes, the Weathersfield police now with their telephones and their latest confessions regarding the rest of the switching names, speaking to each other too while switching names. They brought up the name Palo. Now make sure too, because then they pretend I brought it up after they brought it up. They've been sequence shifting. There's also one of the two Ray Cologne. Both of them are involved with it. Uses of the name psychedelics, because they have roles with a whole bunch of police forms roles with the drugs, where they're allowed to do that for investigations and stuff like that. But they do it for themselves, and they attach people to fake locations. This is relevant to where and to how the investigators and vetting identities, including individual citizens, where they are the victims of a hyper fraud. Worse than election crimes, they force everyone to understate things, where overstatements are claimed, and to overstate things, where criminal insidiousness of this nature and uses of them are relevant to behavior with instances and behavior responses to behavior and theories and convictions. Still tactically delusions wrong too formally, so we could address this. They also have crime methods by the what they call research, like regarding the mental conditions of people, and like they have a mental condition. I read if you say that someone stole lyrics from you, there's a mental condition about that. There is proof that this is juxtaposed. Sometimes hard to remember or get it right. There are lyrics that I wrote and that I sang. There were people stole my history book from me too. The one that has about James Madison, the one I learned about James Madison from this from a location I was in with three branches of government and exception nature tied to them, like military and like private and inter-campuses. They have roles. We predicate acts together with relevant where and how. That's what it is when you have roles with investigations, investigator, and vetting identity, with data reception, identity reception, evidence reception, research reception, racketeering collusions, as roles with uses of all identity ground locations by a breaching method, singular, as roles, needs, and natures with motivations, other, apparent, influenced, and maintained by a breaching method. That he needs to hide between those motivations, natures, needs, interests, narratives. So they didn't want to, but they were forced to by the breaching method. To hide life progressions with the Joe ILO. He's involved. I don't know Joe ILO. The exceptions he made were with people that are also involved with wire crime to them, with the Wethersfield police. And on and off Trinity College with the Joshua Straker. I also don't know Joshua Straker at all. Joel made exceptions. The only exceptions he made were tied to his roles with his family on and off Trinity College and on and off the fire departments and on and off parks. He's involved with names, involved with drugs and medicines crimes and with other natures of crimes, identity theft, fraud, slanders, nature types things, and sexual with that, and pretending his passions and emotions about a gun being shot, and regarding his roles with he confirmed demonstrations and confession and communications by a Joe DeMoro and one of the Joe DeMoros and one of the Ray Close that he had roles with making a fake exception of pretending to know me real fast in his basement. And I had no it was they were standing there. I had no communication. I didn't try to be funny. Didn't try to do anything, and we left. The same thing he did with the Dave. Now those people also have roles with boxing gyms, conversations with which is relevant because all those people have roles with proven child offenders. But these are people, child offenders associated with them as police forms. And within that is where they've been making up things. And if you tell about, okay, they've been making up things, they're pretentious, they're regular making up things. But they've been roles with predicate act methods and cases. So Sandy Hook, Newtown, and the courts associated with them, individually grouped and together, Connecticut courts, have individual names involved with a whole bunch of them. And they're involved consciously with more name stacking and things and natures of crime stacking, acts and instances, roles and uses of them, and predicate acts roles and methods roles, even with prosecutors personally and professionally with them in cases. Because overt criminal enterprises and private ones you can't leave out though. There's a certain type of victim predator that the people shooting with gangs are in collusion. No, not but for the reasons thought, because there's remote uses of logic that came through these logic gates that kept and keeps other things, others ourselves, blamed for things our founders left us to communicate were the fault of those crazy laws and of these standards that were employed by a torture method that our states, that our cities, locations, areas, and states were involved with, as ones then involved with the World Trade Center attack, self-value as a means to hide what they were involved with before that. Everyone, even people not really involved with the World Trade Center attack. There is recorded conscious uses of that insidiousness of the opinions of A through Z regarding the right of vote of the value of voting, for example, because mandated law and the short words and their protraction by it properly outside of interbranch locations. That's where the quality of fact human nature can we have the time treatments and stuff like that before court. They're criminal, they're sick. Now, this breaching method, sustained stuff like that, knowing they would have to hide that by being, and they could get them shown that they have to hide that by offensively hurting people at cusps before understanding certain things. There is self-value, maintenance, to where and how Native Americans, sickly distinctly from ourselves, but also sickly non-distinctly, they have people forcing our short words, ignored and prevented, and they have their motivations offensively pretended as strangers against strangers. And so we don't say this. For example, they have a race, and then they have you know they're raised in collusion, fake difference, or it's sense and that person is hurt. When did anyone have the right to speak for integrity? When anyone says, for example, even if they got something wrong, if they say it with the right nature, in other words, even if they say it with the wrong nature, if they're saying it with the nature that's trying to overcome a wrong nature or premises problems, fact, human nature, quality aspects wrong, that's the subject. We must be led by the hyper invisible but still discernible. It's functional, therefore. We can program by it. We do. Ugh. Vaccines. It teaches things to know. Sometimes the rain will fall from the sky. Sometimes it will snow. Vaccines all at once, all to and fro. I don't know what happened to this thing. This plug went out, man. And the wind blows. What the heck, man? Right near the live performance. line. Keep it. Excuse me. So get them. Don't forget. I got them times between the campuses of distinct ages and natures, intercities. You bet they were they had something to do with the Adam Lanza thing, even if they made it up. And I say that because even if they made up witch trials, we know what they were about. But first, we have to turn over. In other words, the breaching method knew we'd counter criminal insidiousness, criminal enterprises by blaming on other things, others, ourselves, even when correctly wrong, exactly the way it wanted you needed to. And then it could increasingly effectively as it did show them how they need to hide that as styles of logic through logic gates. since before computers, since before electronics, definitions of logic gates, vaccines. It surges through all things alone. Vaccines of what surges through all things alone. It is not force. It surges through all things and even through the force, whichever course it takes. There's a special difference here. It stays, so partakes. Or leaves things as they are. Lethal IDs is force, space nature transfer. That's why the species go extinct. They were to be sensed by consciousness. Evolution science only feels like games. And so, criminal insidiousness natures of positive can be discerned, not just negative. So you have evolution science, other now, be told. Which speaks to you of what speaks for adults is a theater that is a certain type of child abuse. Never saw anything other. Attend. I'll teach you all and well and here again. It's our again. But let's get to the homework lessons. Who's ready for the homework? You guys are still too chicken for the homework assignments. Yeah. Who will be the first one with the courage to do this? Because these are people tied to sequence shifts proven after the 9/11 attack on the World Trade Center in Manhattan. Post-dated documents, insidiously post-dated from inside the Ninth Circuit, had been post-dated from inside the court to make them look late. But they had been brought to the court on time, timestamp, timely. That was proven afterwards. And once that was proven, that led to a part of a 2006 district court case in Connecticut with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin. And I didn't know at the time, but his co-defendants, it's recorded and confessed and demonstrated by them, and them pretending other two simultaneously, which shows them roles too. Part of the things that shows them roles with wire crimes with police families involved, and with Weathersfield Police Department and state police. There are and other police forms. In other words, there's a Lena's Pizza on Park Street too, with a Daryl Sullivan and a Maggie, who switched names with other Maggie with some of the FBI and police families from Weathersfield, who are also involved with police family forms on and off the campuses of various natures and capacities, and they hurt everyone. Also, where they have recorded employments of being black and of being white, of what they call being white, as members of Interbranch who are black and KKK themed and other, who are involved with various natures of federal evidences that are means to show crimes, that are it means to show simultaneously how they have and have had through time as people involved with putting people in jail and watching them way worse, and recorded conscious uses of the right to lie when they don't have the right to lie. And they're all differentially criminally foreign influence, or they attach that person to fake words, fake nature, attend. Only an individual can defend the finite. And we must do this if we want the quality fact measure outside the interbranch locations. Relevant, though, however, to where and to how they've been switching and forging names into branch. Granted, it is where they are victim predators / hyper victim predators, but is also where and how areas of work criminal enterprises and private ones and other natures of criminal insidiousness originally and still were involved. Not one involved. Vaccines. I teach us things. The species body longs to shadow box. Some rest. At that best. Boxing. It's just, hey. I don't know how this thing got open. Oh, because I went like that in the beginning of the video. I never got one subscriber. YouTube, man. Hartford, Connecticut, America. Someone hear me. Someone hear me in the world and tell them to make it for me. Thank you. I bad song. Thanks, man.